Hello my dear students and welcome back to the channel, and today we are going to discuss another important topic, and this topic is excretion. This lecture is being recorded for the students of GCE O levels or IGCSE who are taking their exams from Cambridge University Board, and this lecture will also help the students of Edexcel, AQA or OCR. Excretion. Excretion refers to the removal of metabolic waste and the toxic substances from the body. Chemical reactions are generally known as metabolic reactions, and when chemical reactions take place in our cells or inside the body, along with the required substances, certain unwanted substances are also produced. These unwanted substances may be toxic to the body, or may reduce the solubility of important molecules or ions, or may be in excess quantities. So these toxic substances or excess molecules or ions, or even the ions that reduce the solubility of the important molecules or ions. So these are taken as metabolic waste, and these are required to be removed from the body. If these substances are retained, and let's see, if toxic substances are retained within the body fluids, so due to their toxicity, cells will become dead and they will lose their functioning approach. Similarly, if body fluids hold certain substances that are not toxic but that are useless to us, but they are present in the soluble form in the body fluids like blood plasma, tissue fluid. So these substances will saturate these fluids and will not allow the other required molecules or ions to dissolve in these fluids. So these useless substances must be removed. And similarly, certain molecules or ions that are our need. But if there are excess quantities of these substances, so these excess quantities will be taken as metabolic waste and they are required to be removed. For example, respiration is the very important chemical process that occurs in all living organisms. And during respiration, energy is produced, or energy is released rather. And along with energy, carbon dioxide and water is also produced. So this water, if it becomes excess, so this is a metabolic waste. And carbon dioxide, if it is retained within the body fluid, it will form carbonic acid and it will cause toxicity. So that's why it is required to be removed. Over here, our concern is human excretion. So in case of humans, we have got a well-established excretory system. But before going to discuss that excretory system in detail, we must discuss some important excretory molecules or substances, and we must discuss where they are produced or added into the body fluid and how they are removed from the body. The very first excretory molecule is carbon dioxide that is produced by all the respiring tissues in the body. This carbon dioxide is collected by the blood, it is delivered to the lungs, and it is excreted along with the exhaled air. Second is urea. Urea is produced as a result of deamination in the liver, deamination of amino acids. That results the formation of urea, and that urea is toxic. So it is removed either through kidneys as component of urine, or it is removed through skin as a component of sweat. Uric acid, another metabolic waste that is produced in the body, that is mainly produced by nucleic acid metabolism, and it is excreted through kidneys as component of urine. Similarly, muscles also produce another nitrogenous waste, that is creatinine, and that is released or removed from the body through kidneys as component of urine. Excess minerals. These minerals are added into the body along with food. The food we consume that already contains minerals, and that food is also further processed and further minerals are added. So these minerals may be, or some of these minerals may be in excess. So these excess minerals can be removed from the body through kidneys as component of urine or through skin as component of sweat. Similarly, bile is another waste product that is raised by the liver, and it is stored in the gallbladder and later released into the digestive system, into the duodenum part of the small intestine, where it helps in the digestive processes as well, and it is excreted along with the feces. Excess water. So I am using word excess water. Water is our requirement, but if its concentration is in excess, so excess concentration of waters will be taken as metabolic waste. Water is added into our body through food, drinks, or respiration that takes place in our body, so that also adds water to the body fluids. And if the total water contents of the body, they are more than the body needs, so excess water is to be excreted. And this water is excreted through kidneys as a major component of urine, through sweating that occurs through skin, and even this water is removed along with the fecal material as well, and this water is removed as water vapors along with the exhaled air. So this was about various excretory products that are raised in the body and how they are removed. Let's proceed with the excretory system. In humans, these are the components of the excretory systems. We have a pair of kidneys, one kidney on each side of the vertebral column. Each kidney receives blood through renal arteries and returns the blood through renal vein. From each kidney there arises a muscular tube that is known as ureter. So a ureter is arising from left kidney as well as another ureter is arising from right kidney. Both of the ureters are to join a muscular bag known as urinary bladder, and urinary bladder opens to the exterior, opens to the external environment through another muscular tube known as urethra. So what job is being performed by these kidneys? Kidneys receive blood through renal arteries, and blood contains high concentrations of these metabolic waste substances. That blood is purified in the kidney, and this purification involves two processes. One is ultrafiltration and the other is selective reabsorption. And this process is also known as urine formation. When the blood is purified and maximum waste substances have been removed, so purified blood is returned to the main bloodstream through renal vein, and the urine that has been extracted that contains the metabolic waste, it is drained out of the kidneys into the ureter. And ureters from each kidney, they carry this urine to the urinary bladder where it is stored for some time, and when urinary bladder gets filled up with the urine, its muscular walls contract, and these muscular walls, when they contract, they make the sphincter valve open and the urine is drained out into urethra, and through urethra it is drained out of the body and it is removed. Let's see how the kidneys are processing. First of all, we must see the inside structure of the kidney. So when we see the kidney, so the outer layer is known as capsule, and inside it the outermost tissue lining is known as cortex, inner region is known as medulla, and in the medulla region, if we see, we can see a cluster of pyramid-like structures. These pyramid-like structures are actually consisting of large number of excretory units, and these excretory units are known as nephron. And these nephrons, the urine they form, all that urine is drained into a cavity known as renal pelvis, and from that renal pelvis urine is drained out into the ureter. Each kidney, as I told you earlier, is supplied with the blood through renal arteries, and purified blood is returned to renal vein. So how we are going to recognize which one is the renal artery or which one is the renal vein? So in the diagram, when we are provided with the diagram, The blood vessel that is with thick walls and small lumen would be an artery, and the blood vessel with thin walls and large lumen would be a vein. So the renal artery would be with thicker walls and small lumen, and renal vein would be with thinner walls and large lumen. So this helps you to identify these structures and label them correctly. As I told you that kidneys receive blood, so kidneys are involved in purification of the blood and removing the metabolic waste from the blood 24 hours. In 1 minute, both kidneys filter blood 125 cm³ a minute. In 24 hours, both kidneys make around 180 liter of filtrate. But not all the filtrate is turned into urine. Rather, 0.3 liter to 2 liter is normally turned into urine. Rest is actually the important molecules that are returned to the main body fluids. So it means out of 180 liter filtrate, only maximum of 178 liter has to be returned, and around 2 liter is being the metabolic waste. It means that filtration process does not cater about whether this is the waste substance or whether this is the required substance. So filtration process actually makes all the molecules or most of the molecules from the blood to get filtered into the kidney. Okay, both kidneys when they are working, so they are filtering blood all time. Blood keeps on circulating throughout the body. It collects the waste substances every time it circulates through the body, comes to the kidneys, gets filtered out, and then moves back to the body fluids again, So every time it brings waste substances to the kidney. Inside the kidney, when this renal artery enters, it makes a large number of branches, and these large number of branches are known as afferent arterioles. Each afferent arteriole reaches to a nephron. Now we discuss the structure of a nephron. You can see the cup-like structure of the nephron. This is known as Bowman's capsule. It is also known as renal cup, Bowman's cup, glomerular cup. And this Bowman's capsule has got a cavity, and in that cavity, afferent arteriole makes a network of capillaries known as glomerulus. And these glomerular capillaries later unite to make another arteriole that is known as efferent arteriole. The diameter of afferent arteriole is larger compared to the diameter of the efferent arteriole. Now, the blood is entering the afferent arteriole at high pressure, but when it reaches to the glomerulus, so flow speed is highly reduced because capillaries have got very low diameter, and it creates a strong hydrostatic pressure along with the diffusion gradient. That makes most of the components of the blood, that include water, glucose, amino acids, a few of the proteins, mineral ions, some of the breakdown products of hormones, to get filtered, and they get into the spaces, into the lumen spaces of the Bowman's capsule, where all this filtrate is known as renal filtrate, or we can call it glomerular filtrate or Bowman's filtrate. Now this filtrate is having almost the same composition as that of the blood present in the glomerular capillaries. Or you can say almost 50% of the blood gets filtered out, regardless of waste or important molecules or ions. Larger protein molecules, blood cells, they do not get filtered. But most of the components, almost in equal concentration, they are filtered out and become the part of the renal filtrate. Now this renal filtrate is moved to the next part of the nephron, and this next part that you can see in the diagram is the coiled part. It is known as proximal convoluted tubule. In the proximal convoluted tubule, when this renal filtrate passes, so most of the components are reabsorbed and they are returned to the bloodstream. Now, these substances that are reabsorbed at the proximal convoluted tubule, that include all the glucose, all the amino acids, some of the mineral ions like sodium ions, and some of the water. It is generally assumed that 40 to 50% of the renal filtrate that is comprising of important molecules and ions, especially glucose and amino acids, they are reabsorbed in the proximal convoluted tubule and they are returned to the body fluids through blood vessels, through bloodstream, through blood that is actually running through the capillaries around. After that, this renal filtrate is passed on to the loop of Henle. Here in the diagram you can see loop of Henle is a U-shaped tube that is the continuation from proximal convoluted tubule. This loop of Henle has got two limbs. One is the descending limb that has its origin from the end of the proximal convoluted tubule and it extends down to the medulla region. Then there is a U-bend and it ascends up again into the cortex region. This is known as the ascending limb. In both of these limbs of loop of Henle, water and minerals are being reabsorbed. Means renal filtrate that is passing down the descending limb, it loses water to the outside, and the renal filtrate that is passing up the ascending limb, it loses mineral ions out of it. And all these mineral ions that move out of the renal filtrate and the water that moves out of the renal filtrate, it is reabsorbed into the blood in the nearby capillaries and it is returned to the body fluids. Later, this renal filtrate is sent into another coiled part of the nephron and this is known as distal convoluted tubule. In the distal convoluted tubule, again mainly water and some mineral ions are reabsorbed, and by the end of the distal convoluted tubule, all the leftover substances in the renal filtrate are now generally known as urine. And each collecting duct ends up into a main tube known as collecting duct. And all that urine that is formed at the end of the distal convoluted tubule is drained into the collecting duct. This collecting duct is actually connected with large number of other nephrons, and the urines formed by all the nephrons is drained into the collecting duct. And this collecting duct opens into the renal pelvis where all the urine is poured out, and from renal pelvis it is drained out into the ureter. Now remember one thing, there is another possibility of water reabsorption into the bloodstream through collecting duct, but this is known as osmoregulatory reabsorption of water influenced by ADH hormone. If there is a shortage of water in the body and still after the reabsorption of water by the end of distal convoluted tubule, still there is a shortage of water in the body, so water can be reabsorbed from the urine that is running through the collecting duct. In that case, pituitary gland in the brain releases a hormone known as ADH. In case of severe shortage of water in the body, large number of molecules of ADH hormone are released. ADH is a short form and it is named as antidiuretic hormone. And this hormone travels through the bloodstream, reaches the kidney and reaches the collecting duct, where these hormones interact the cells that make the wall of the collecting duct and make these cells more permeable to water. So this makes these cells to take up water from the urine that is passing through the cavity of the collecting duct, and this water that is being absorbed by these cells is immediately transferred to the capillaries that are passing nearby, so that all that water that has been reabsorbed must be returned to the body fluids through the blood, so that body water contents must rise up. So in that case, if there is a severe shortage of water in the body, so more water from the urine is reabsorbed under influence of ADH hormones, and it will result urine volume to be reduced and urine to be concentrated. But if body fluids have got sufficient water and there is less requirement for water reabsorption, so in that case less ADH is released and less water is reabsorbed and more is retained in the urine that is passing through the collecting duct. So in that case, the volume of urine produced would be high and it would be dilute. There are certain circumstances, if a person is drinking less water or a person is sweating a lot due to hot climate around, so person is likely to produce less urine, and the urine he or she produces is concentrated and might be dark in color. But in case if a person is drinking a lot of water, or there is very cold climate around, or no sweating activities occurring, so the body fluids may have large volumes of water inside. So in that case, more water has to be lost along with the urine, so less ADH is produced, less water is reabsorbed, and the urine released is with large volumes and dilute one with less concentration. Both kidneys are working simultaneously 24 hours. But there could be certain circumstances when the kidneys may stop working temporarily or reduce working permanently or even stop working permanently. So this may be taken as kidney shutdown if there is a temporary working stopped, or it can be taken as kidney failure, and this could be due to number of reasons. As I told you earlier, that blood is being filtered down the pressure gradient and diffusion gradient. If a person suffers from low blood pressure, so sufficient pressure is not generated in the glomeruli and blood may not be filtered or may not be sufficiently filtered. So that's why urine formation temporarily stops and waste substances may accumulate within the bloodstream. In certain cases, any infection that is occurring inside the kidney may make the kidney to stop functioning for a while or reduce functioning for longer run. Or sometimes people do develop kidney stones, and these kidney stones may cause a damage to the kidneys inside or may block the passage of the urine. So that will also result urine accumulating in the kidney, and due to toxicity of the urine, kidney cells may stop functioning and ultimately filtration process or urine formation process may stop. In case a person is having a temporary shutdown of the kidney or a partial kidney failures, so the person is likely subjected to dialysis. So a person is allowed to visit to the hospital or the kidney centers where his blood is purified through artificial machines known as dialysis machine or hemodialyzers. But this process takes a lot of money, a bit surgical procedure that may be painful to people, and it is a bit costly as well. So every time a person visits must be paying some cost as well, and person may not be going every time. So till the person visits the kidney centers to get their blood purified, so waste substances may be in higher concentration in his blood and resulting certain lethal consequences. But kidney transplant is a permanent solution. So a person who is experiencing kidney failure, he may be transplanted with a healthy kidney that has been donated by a donor. The kidney donated must match maximum to the recipient. So after the match of kidney is transplanted in the recipient's body, and this kidney will work as normal kidney, and throughout rest of the life of that person, it will keep filtering the blood and keep removing the waste substances. But it is also not easy, because collecting a mashed kidney is also a problem. Okay, so it may take many years to find a mashed kidney. Second, surgical procedure is there. Third thing, immunity may get compromised here, because when the kidney transplant is done, the recipient is subjected to the drugs that reduce immunity, and in that case the person is likely to suffer from other infections. So again, it is a bit problematic. But if kidney transplant goes successful, it is much better and the permanent solution of the kidney failure when compared to the dialysis. We discussed about excretion, various excretory products, and this was about excretory system we discussed, and this is about if a person is having kidney problem, so how that can be sorted out. This was about excretion. Thank you very much.